Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes. Well, hello. You've been gone all week, and I've missed you. I've gotten very few texts. How you doing?
It's the worst. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing great. Doing great. What stories do you have, or what updates do you have for me this week?
We may or may not have a baby possum in the other room.
Sounds about right. Oh my God. Why didn't you tell me? Tell me everything.
It's so cute.
Stop it. It's in the house?
Yeah, but it's in a cage.
Jeez.
So I was gone this week, as you said, and Chris, it just happens to him. Like, he was at the gym.
And the possum was working out?
Yep. And there are traps around the gym. And a trap had landed on this baby possum's face. And so, of course, Chris stops everything he's doing, interrupts everything, takes his baby possum. He puts it through a flea bath. He combs out about 100 fleas. It was blood everywhere. The water afterwards looked like oil.
Stop.
It was disgusting, at least the pictures and videos, but he's little.
Was it a safe trap or a mean trap?
It was a mean trap.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It was a mean trap. So it landed on its face. So part of it's it'll get food stuck in one side of its mouth. And I say maybe it's a preteen. It's not a baby, but it's only 4, 5 inches.
Can you guys see her hands?
I told you the inches.
Yeah.
4 or 5 inches. And it's just so cute. It's not even hissing though, but that makes me nervous.
Why?
Because we want to re-release it in 2 days or once it gets back up to health.
Why does it make you nervous that it's not hissing?
Because then it's not acting feral, and it needs to if we're putting it back in the wild.
Okay, so is it injured or is it okay?
It's a little injured in its face.
Okay.
He didn't think it was going to make it, but once he got all the fleas off of it, he's feeding it this weird, gross mixture, spinach and fruits and yogurt and stuff. It's doing better.
This is gruesome.
Yeah, but this is a day in the life at the zoo over here. So, yeah, I came back to that. It's really cute. I'll put a picture up.
Did you know possums are immune to rabies?
I didn't.
I think maybe that might be made up. I'm pretty sure that they can't get rabies.
Why?
I don't know. Because everyone freaks out about a possum, and I read an article that it's actually unfair.
They're really good animals.
They're really good to have because they take care of a bunch of other things that you wouldn't actually want.
Right. They eat a ton of bugs.
Everyone thinks that they carry rabies, but they actually don't.
They're just cute. And I know they're ugly, but they're ugly cute.
Just like me.
No. If you see one, it kind of looks like they're smiling.
These animals hardly ever have rabies. They don't often carry the virus.
Maybe if something gets it to them, like if a squirrel bites them.
It's unlikely for them to transmit rabies.
Yeah. Give possums a chance. They're really good for your yards. They'll get the bugs that you don't want. And they're just innocent little awkward creatures. They're so awkward. I love them.
I mean, that's fine, but don't take a possum in your house.
No, don't.
Do your rabies research because
do not do
I just
that.
said that.
Do not do what we do.
Do we have any possum experts out there? Give us an email.
Probably.
Shoot us an email. Yeah, well, that's probably the most gruesome thing you're going to hear today.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. let's launch into that tea review, I guess.
So,
wait, one more question. Did you name the possum?
No. This is a very temporary home, actually.
Yeah. Speaking of that, how's that temporary bridge kitty you got? Just curious.
He missed me and he slept between my legs because he loved me.
Exactly. I can't wait till I see this possum on a leash doing a neighborhood walk for you.
Oh my God, don't tempt me. No, there are too many cats in the neighborhood. That would not go well.
All right, what you got?
So, I might die today. We got new teas from another Etsy shop. They had really good reviews, so I'm hopeful.
I did not work anywhere else in high school, so I can't vet this with a
Imagine.
personal recommendation.
It's the ice cream shop. So it's called the Witchwood Tea House, which is ominous. But if I die, my animals won't eat me because they're not in here, so that's a plus. And Chris will come home eventually.
Yeah, because, I'm just going to keep quiet about the whole affair.
Yeah.
While I witness it happen, I'm going to say, well, she lived a good life and not tell Chris that you're in the
did.
next room struggling.
I did have a good life.
Good Lord.
This is called Spicy Dragonfire.
Ooh.
I got a sample pack from them, so some other fun ones will come up.
Where are they located?
I forget.
Cool.
Black tea, cinnamon, orange, and chili. So I got really excited about the chili part.
Really?
So that's new to me for tea.
Yeah.
And I picked black tea because I need a little kick in the arse. And there's not much of a description beyond that. But the label looks really cool. You guys will see it when I post it on the gram, as the Gen Z calls it. I don't know if they do that.
That makes perfect sense because I call it Insta. So whatever it is that would like
I always the opposite.
And it's unfair because I think people think it's as I'm aging out, but it's really I've always been this uncool. Always. Like it's just I'm just continuing it.
We're the grandmas.
All right, what you got?
So it smells like cinnamon, which is one of the ingredients.
Makes sense.
I did add milk because it's black tea.
Obviously, if you don't know that, get with it. Listen to some previous episodes where she destroys me.
All right. Oh, okay. Decent mouthfeel, a little light on the body. I'm not getting any spice unless it's just like a little bit of a tickle at the back of the tongue. It's really hard to pick up. And I probably should have put a little bit less milk, even though I didn't put much in.
I was going to say maybe you put a little bit too much milk, but you never overdo it on milk. I put a whole gallon in mine.
Okay, I get a little bit of the chili, like tiny bit. It clings a little bit to the tongue. It's trying to sneak in. But really, it's black tea and cinnamon gang.
Cinnamon what?
Gang.
What's that?
Like they're taking over.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a tea term.
No, I just made shit up. I cannot taste the orange at all.
Okay.
But it's a nice black tea, so I'm happy.
All right.
I wanted to... It's a decent thumbs up.
Decent. Okay.
Yeah.
Will you be linking their Etsy shop in the show notes?
Maybe.
Oh. TBD, guys.
Yeah, I think so. They have a lot of really cool ones. The Witchwood Tea House.
I like the name.
Mm-hmm. It smells like the cereal I have in the morning, which is called Cinnamon Harvest by Kashi.
That sounds about right. Sounds exactly like what you'd eat.
Yep.
While you're staring at your possum face. Okay.
Oh, just little.
Oh, jeez. I mean, yeah. Okay. You might need to take notes for this one. This one, I went so deep in the rabbit hole on this one.
I have a pen. I have a paper, but no pen, so I'll do my best.
Perfect. Scratch it out in blood, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna have to have a whole Q&A at the end of this.
Oh my god!
And think about what we think is happening. But in 1977, I'll let you
it's a great
react
year.
To the date. Why is it a great year? What happened?
Star Wars came out.
He said that. Like, he's so excited. Okay. Well, in 1977, Mary Gillispie, a married mother of two, receives an anonymous letter in the mail warning her to end her affair with the school superintendent, Gordon Massey, which Mary says is not true. In this letter, it's handwritten.
It's from the future.
It's all caps, and it's very creepy block print.
Don't do that, folks.
You're going to hate when I send you a picture of it. It reads, Mrs. Gillispie, stay away from Massey. Don't lie when questioned about knowing him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children.
Ew.
This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified and everything will be over soon.
Oh my God. Can you imagine getting a letter like that? What do you do?
I would lose my mind.
I'd move.
Yeah, I'll get into some of the psychological effects of this later because I was thinking the same thing. But this letter, it's postmarked from Columbus, Ohio, which is about 30 miles north of where Mary lives in a very small town called Circleville, Ohio. And this town is today it's about 14,000 people. So I imagine it was a little smaller in the
Yeah.
70s. And it's one of those towns that generations live there.
Yep.
Families grow up there. Everybody kind of knows everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And besides what the story I'm about to tell you, their main claim to fame is they have a pumpkin festival every year.
That's it. Okay.
That's it. That's all. That's their big thing, which I love because I grew up in New England and I always used to go to the Keene Pumpkin Fest.
I do love a pumpkin and
love a good pumpkin
apple
fest.
Those interchangeable.
One year we went to the pumpkin festival and we dressed up, and I was in 7th grade, and we dressed up from that TV show The Munsters, and we made my dad be Herman, and he was just perfectly suited for it. I just want to say that.
Amazing.
And he had
You have
the
a photo?
best Herman laugh. I'll have to. I mean, it was so long ago. It would be an actual
photo.
print.
Yeah.
Actual photo.
Not a digital file.
Yeah, we didn't have cell phones, but he let me put full green makeup on him and everything in the works.
That's awesome.
Or was it white? I can't remember. Anyway, he was full makeup, whatever Herman Munster looks like. I realize he's black white. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to poor Mary. So Mary keeps this letter to herself because
It's not a good idea.
she does know Gordon Massey because he's actually the superintendent and she's a bus driver.
Oh.
So she does know him. And like I said, it's a super small town. So of course she knows him. But she's going to keep it to herself. She's super freaked out. She doesn't want to worry anybody. And she's probably thinking it's some sort of weird prank or...
But is she having the affair? That's the thing.
She says no.
So why would somebody do this if she's not?
Well, so she keeps it to herself. She doesn't say anything. Then her husband, Ron Gillispie, starts receiving letters.
Oh, no.
And these letters are also telling him about the alleged affair and saying if it's not stopped, Mary will be in danger. So Ron, believes his wife. She says it's not true. It's not happening. I mean, I think I would believe my wife over creepy letter person as well. But it turns out that Mary and Ron are not the only people in town receiving these letters. According to a podcast, Whatever Remains, which is hosted by Marie Mayhew and was featured on 48 Hours, Gordon Massey was actually the first person to receive a letter on March 2nd of 1977, and it was delivered directly to the school. So Gordon Massey's the superintendent, right? It reads, "Dear Sir, according to my girlfriend, you have asked her to go out many times, and have asked the other female bus drivers too. Due to your position and their jobs with you, you should not do this. This must stop at once for the good of the school and families. If they are not stopped, I will be forced to write to the school board, and I'd hate to do that. To prey on another man's girl is untouchable, especially when they're out trying to make a living. There's also talk of you dating a married woman and taking advantage of them. Do you need times and names again? Please think. I suggest you find yourself a pimple-faced whore and start up with
Oh.
her and leave my girls alone." That's a weird insult. I've also never heard anybody say that. But
It's a stalker. They think it's a person who's obsessed with her and thinks that she's his girlfriend.
so Gordon
convinced.
Massey is a pretty respected person in the community. He's an Army vet. He has a master's. He was a teacher for years. He was a principal for a couple years. He's been a superintendent of another district for the last few. He's married to a 2nd grade teacher. They have a son together. So if these allegations are true, it is not jiving with the public persona of Gordon Massey. They're very different. And it seems that this writer's main motive is to call out and punish Gordon Massey for his behavior or potentially change it, right? To intervene and kind of save the poor bus drivers. But the writer threatened him and said, "I will tell the school board if you don't change your behavior," but then gave Gordon Massey no time to do anything because within 2 days, the school board also receives a letter.
Oh my gosh.
And so these are just some excerpts from it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, "Dear School Board, this is to inform you that you have several dissatisfied female drivers due to their working relations with their boss. He dates a lot of the drivers. One, because she's afraid to because of her job and because of his position." And then he goes on and on, or he or she goes on. And then under these circumstances, they cannot be treated equally. He picks on the weaker ones constantly. This is a terrible working condition and must be stopped for the sake of the schools and families involved. Again, you should investigate. And he goes on and on to say all the things that he said to Massey about, dating these women. That same day, the letter writer sends another letter to a superintendent of a different school.
What?
So this person is not giving any time. They're just full attack, right? And parts of this letter read, I have met him, meaning Massey, and he seems like a sincere man. So I would like to see this matter made right and forgotten. I can't stand the thought of him thinking about this. One of these drivers, or especially my girl, which I am sure makes no difference to him. I am being informed of him daily and can point out the last drivers he has been with. I shall prove it to you. Again, he needs talking to so this matter can be forgotten.
Yeah,
give the drivers a break. Help them. So all of these letters hit before Mary and Ron get theirs. I have to imagine Mary and Ron didn't know this because I doubt Massey and the school board is, hey, guess what I got in the mail today? So I assume everybody's kind of keeping quiet about it on their own sides and not comparing notes at this point.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Also, they seem to be really obsessed with the fact that Massey is dating all of the bus drivers. And I don't know, I guess this is a stereotype of mine, but all the bus drivers in my town were 70-year-old men. So
I know some women. This is just weird. Like, it's either a stalker or it's a bus driver in my mind right now.
Well, what the letters suggest is that it's the bus driver is their girlfriend.
Right. But they're like speaking for the bus drivers, all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though the letter writer seems to really have it out for Massey, Mary's receiving a lot of the attention as well, and a lot more of the threats. Massey seems to be receiving, professional threats. I'm going to expose you.
Professional threats.
Well, they're going to expose him. Yeah, no, he's really practiced. He is an amateur. I meant like he's attacking his professional career, whereas he's threatening Mary and Ron's well-being. It's a little bit different. And Ron continues to get letters saying he needs to take care of it. And then the letter writer starts threatening Ron, so Mary's husband, and the letter writer says, Gillispie, you've had 2 weeks and done nothing. Make her admit the truth and inform the school board. If not, I will broadcast it on CBs, posters, signs, and billboards until the truth comes out.
It sounds like a lot of money.
I mean, cool it. Why do you care?
Yeah.
Why are they so obsessed?
It's a stalker.
Whew. So think of how scared Ron and Mary are at this moment. They do have 2 children.
I'd get out of there.
And I looked into, I have a lot of different psych breaks in this one, but one of the articles I read published by the British Institute of Graphologists mentions the psychology about these anonymous letters is almost always centered around power and control, like every other kind of weird behavior that gets out there. And they have excessive jealousy and they want to interfere and control the outcome.
Uh-huh.
But what the article said was that these people often know the victim or in their social circles, so they can sit back and observe and help and be part of the solution while they know behind the scenes what's going on.
That's creepy.
Which is really scary. So that means more than likely this is somebody who Ron and Mary know pretty closely. It's, a family member, a coworker.
Yeah.
Somebody that they interact with a lot in town. And they talk about how people will hide their true handwriting when they're writing these anonymous letters.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll try to disguise it. They often do this by writing in all caps, which is how these are how the letters are written. All caps, and it's in block print, also how the letters are written. There's often an unusual slant one way or the other, which a lot of these letters have where, they kind of lean right, the letters do, or they lean left to try and disguise your natural handwriting. They also will shape the letters in an unusual way, which if you look at these letters, they also do. And sometimes we can't tell this for sure, but sometimes they'll use their opposite hand or a different kind of writing utensil that masks the writing a little bit. They'll also often take their grammar down a level or two from what their baseline is.
Huh.
So, if you, the grammar queen, were writing the letter, you'd leave out commas. And
oh, boy, that'd be hard.
Yeah, you'd have an emotional struggle with these letters, I think. So Ron and Mary, obviously, they haven't read this article because it was written after this happened, but they are coming to the conclusion that it must be someone they know as well.
That's scary.
I know.
Just question everybody in your life.
I know. So they try to figure it out. So the two of them sit down with Ron's sister, Karen Sue, her husband, Paul Freshour, and Paul's sister to kind of, little think tank session.
But what if it's one of them?
Well, they come together and they think of, who do we know? Who could it be? What do we do here? They talk over possible suspects. And again, small town, Mary believes these letters could be coming from another bus driver, which makes sense based off of how obsessed they are with Mary's job. And she believes it could be coming from a man named David Longberry. Now, previously, this is why she thinks that, David had been interested in Mary. And when she turned him down, he became upset. And
Stalker.
I think there was also just a vibe that Mary picked up from him as well.
Sure.
And I have to assume that this happened while Mary was with Ron, because Mary and Ron are high school sweethearts. So, the odds of this happening in junior high and her still thinking about it seem slim. So I assume that this happened while she was married to Ron and had children and, recently. So they think he could be a viable suspect. So the group writes their own letter to David, nothing threatening, but just confronting him, saying, hey, this is what's happening. We think it might be you. Cut it out. And the letters stop. So that's it.
Okay. Wait. But don't be fooled.
Right.
Because it's really Ron's brother. Because that they're trying to make it believe like that.
Oh, Ron, well, it's Ron's sister that's there, but you mean Ron's brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Ron's brother-in-law. So this letter stopped at first, but then after a hiatus, they pick back up again. And now they're attacking Mary and Ron's daughter.
Why wouldn't they bring this to the police?
They do.
Okay.
Saying cruel things and putting signs around town broadcasting insults about Mary and Ron's daughter.
What the
These letters start describing the car the family drives, naming the school that the children go to.
No.
Threatening to kill Mary's daughter.
Bro.
With a gun. They call out the method. And putting signs up all around town. Now, it's said that Ron would leave the house an hour early every day before his shift at PPG Industries to drive around town and take down all these signs so his daughter didn't see them. Yeah. So I think it is safe to say that this family is being stalked, like you said before, right? This is not just a prank letter they got in the mail. This is escalating and they're threatening them. This is terrifying stuff. So
time to vigilante this shit.
Yeah. And they're being stalked by somebody who knows them, at least knows of them, because they have to be in town to know all this information and be able to have any kind of insight into this stuff.
What conclusion did they draw from, hey, it stopped for a second after we talked to this guy?
I don't know. I think they probably thought, okay, it was him. And then they probably thought either he started back up again or it's not him, it's somebody else.
So would they go to the police and say, this guy's doing that?
Well, hold on. Let me get through it. So this kind of stalker, right, is somebody who, like I said, who's somebody who knows him. It's not some stranger on the street. But according to Psychology Today, in 1993, so after this case happened, 5 stalking types were created in order to help for treatment and recovery by a psychiatrist named Paul Mullen. And so he classified stalkers into 5 types: rejected, intimacy seekers, incompetent, resentful, and predator. And based off those names, based off those names, you can kind of guess what each means. But rejected is somebody who was in a relationship with the victim, usually romantic, but doesn't have to be. It could have been a friend or something. And for some reason, that relationship ended, and then they want that person back. And so the stalking begins. The intimacy seeker wants to be in a relationship with the victim, but has never been in one.
Oh, okay.
And typically doesn't know them at all, which is the most common Hollywood version. Right? And then the incompetent type is a spinoff of the intimacy seeker, except for the fact that they are able to recognize their feelings are not being returned, which is the difference where, the intimacy seeker can't recognize that, and they know their feelings aren't being returned, yet they can't stop.
That's maybe worse.
And then the last 2, I think, is what we're seeing in this case. So you have the resentful type who wants revenge and has experienced some sort of perceived injustice from the person that they're stalking, and they see themselves as the victims.
Mm.
And the predator is not interested in the victim necessarily, but wants the high off of the power and control. It's less about who the person is and
Gross.
more about the control. And they particularly like finding out things about the victim and will often think about hurting the victim, fantasizing about it.
What the why are these people existing? 20%,
Well, the
right?
psychiatrist stresses that these people need psychological intervention, right? This is something that needs to be
Yeah.
treated psychologically, not just with brute force. You need to be able to help these people. So you can imagine Mary and Ron are faced with probably some version of the last two, stalker, like depending. According to actionagainststalking.org, the most common feelings that people being stalked go through are there's some you might obviously consider. Obviously, a huge increase in anxiety, feelings of powerlessness, disrupted sleep, fatigue because you're not sleeping well. But 94% make changes to their life or their work patterns because they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to throw the person off the trail.
Yeah.
More than half will leave their jobs because they just can't continue to be in that environment, which means there's also often a financial impact because
Oh
people are missing work
man.
or they're having to get a different job.
That's terrible.
Almost 40% will just straight up move.
That's what I would do, I think. If I
Oh,
had a
it's just,
kid.
I know, but just think about having to uproot your life and not knowing if they'll follow you.
Oh God.
People will also experience flashbacks, really intrusive thoughts, and about a quarter of people who are stalked will have suicidal thoughts themselves.
Hmm.
So this has got to be taking a toll
Yeah.
on Ron and Mary. So in August of 1977, Mary decides to take a girls' trip to Florida. She wants to get away for a few days. She
Okay.
goes with two other women and her sister-in-law, Karen. And Paul Freshour, her brother-in-law, he sets it up because his parents live in Florida. So he helps organize it for the girls. They drive down there.
No.
On August 19th, while Mary is gone, Ron's at home with the two children. He gets a phone call.
Oh.
No one knows what was said. But whatever happened made him rush out of the house with his gun.
What?
He said goodbye to his kids and he hopped in his
Whoa.
truck.
Whoa.
Ron never came home again.
What?
His truck was found wrapped around a tree a short distance from his home and he had died on impact.
What did he do with the gun?
The gun he had taken with him was found in the truck and one round had been fired.
But not at himself.
Not at himself, no. His blood alcohol was reported as 1.5 times the legal limit.
But he would have been just at home, like maybe he was just having a bourbon.
Well, here's the thing. No one saw Ron drink that day, and Ron wasn't much of a drinker, so that's a little odd for people. And when the details of this crash came out, his brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, was absolutely convinced that Ron was murdered and begged the sheriff to look into it. Because according to Paul, the sheriff seemed to think it was also suspicious and then suddenly changed his mind. And he had one suspect in mind. He brought him in. That person passed a polygraph. And then the sheriff suddenly said, well, it was an accident. We're done here. And the letters stopped again for a minute.
It's Paul or Karen are involved.
Now, when the letters start up again, they're going to people all around town saying that Ron was murdered and that they need to look at Mary and Massey.
You know what?
And that the sheriff was trying to cover it up.
I'm trying to think about the motivation here. Like, this person is anti-Mary.
Anti-Mary,
but I
yes.
think maybe they were into Ron. Because they're trying to fight for Ron. And they were going after his wife. But then they were threatening his kids. So that's not
I don't know if you can... I don't think you can anticipate Ron's behavior. It's really curious to me what happened. That's one of the questions I have at the end, so we can think about it once we hear the stories.
Do we know what happened on the phone?
No, nobody knows what was said. He had also previously spoken to Mary and said he thought he knew who the person was, and then later...
She's still in Florida, though.
Yeah, he had called her. They had talked on the phone before the call came in. He said, listen, I think I understand who it is, and I'm going to, see what we can do to take care of it, and then you got a call later that night.
Oh my God, why wouldn't he tell her who?
now the letters going around town are saying that Ron's death is a murder and that, the sheriff is trying to cover it up and they need to look into it. And once Ron passes away, Mary says that her and Massey are having an affair,
What?
but that it didn't start until after Ron passed away.
Oh
I don't know how many people believe
my
that
God. Is this like that
chronological
other
order.
case where it was her sending the letters the whole time? Oh my God.
After Mary admits this, the letters towards Mary intensify. They become a lot more, even more aggressive. Side note, the Masseys actually divorce in 1979.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So this admission from Mary seems to just make the letter writer furious. And now things are being said like, it's your daughter's turn to pay for what you've done.
Bro. Come after
Yeah.
my family. See what happens.
And just a side note, it's not just this whole Mary, Ron, Massey scandal that are in the letters. These letters are also being sent to other members of the community on a much smaller scale. And they're calling out other affairs and embezzlement.
Wow.
I mean, there's a real I'm the morality police vibe to all of these letters.
I am the police vibe. Who's a person who would know all this stuff?
Thousands of letters are being over the course of this are being written and sent.
Priest or a cop?
Yeah, well, priest. Oh,
The
confessionals.
confessional.
Well, not everybody's Catholic.
That's true.
But still, even with these other letters, those seem to pale in comparison to what Mary is receiving.
But that's an interesting note because that will speak to who this person is. Like, they are very well connected.
Yeah, they have to know something, right? So then on February 7th of 1983, so this has been going on since 77.
Yeah.
Okay. Mary's on her bus. She sees a sign.
I can't believe she didn't quit. Honestly.
I know. She sees a sign attacking her daughter. And the sign is brutal, disgusting. I'm not going to repeat it.
How old is her daughter at this point?
At this point, she's about 12 or 13.
Oh, God. And this is when it'll really fuck her up if she sees something like that.
Yeah. And these are handmade signs, by the way. Who has the time for this? So she stops the bus. She gets out and rips it down. Good. She doesn't want her daughter to see it. And there's a box attached to the back of the sign.
Oh, my God.
So she takes everything off and like kind of gets out of the road.
It's full of bees.
No, the box actually contains a gun.
The gun.
That has been booby-trapped to shoot whomever rips the sign down because the trigger has twine around it and the twine is attached to the back of the sign.
Oh, my God.
And it's fed through a hole in the box. But for whatever reason, luckily, it didn't work. When Mary ripped the sign down, it didn't go off. Of course, she goes to the police and hands them a box with a gun in it. And the police send it to the BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. The serial number has been filed off, but not well enough. So they are able to recover it. And they trace it to a local man in Circleville.
Paul.
No, another gentleman. They go to that man and they say, hey, question for you. And he says, oh, I don't have that gun anymore. Right? Classic answer. And they say, okay, well, where is it?
Search your home.
Well, I actually sold it. And they say, okay, who'd you sell it to? I sold it to Paul Freshour.
Oh, called it.
Yeah, you did. You're getting so good. But hold on. There's so many questions about it. So,
okay, let me just get it straight. Paul, tell me the relation again. Paul is Ron's brother-in-law?
Paul is Ron's brother-in-law. He is married to Ron's sister.
Karen
Sue.
And he's obsessed with Mary.
Well, I mean, the letter writer is, right?
Okay.
Hold on. There's just lots of questions. So after the gun is identified as Paul's, he's questioned by the police. He admits that it is his gun. And a few weeks prior to this booby trap being set up, his gun was stolen.
Yeah, right. We know it's you, Paul.
He then lets them search the home, the car. He provides handwriting samples, 100% cooperative. He shows the police where he kept the gun. It wasn't super secure. It was just in the garage. He denies everything. He denies writing the letters. He denies the booby trap. But he fails a polygraph. And he is charged with the attempted murder of Mary Gillispie. At this time that all this is happening, shortly after this booby trap happens, Karen and Paul are in the middle of a very ugly divorce.
Oh.
Paul says Karen Sue cheated on him.
With
Karen
who?
Sue says Paul has an uncontrollable temper and was abusive.
Ooh.
And lots of people paint Karen Sue as in a really harsh light. But the podcast I mentioned before, Whatever Remains, dove into the court documents. And it was revealed on that podcast that a lot was happening to Karen Sue. Her boss testified that she was also having signs made about her, and they were on the lawn of the office every day, and he would take them down and put them in his trunk. He said Karen Sue also said somebody came at her in her car and shot at her.
What?
And
I feel like this is something to report. Like, this is a small town. How are these things just happening?
They had. And Paul had actually hired a private investigator and called work and said, hey, I'm going to send this private investigator to talk to you and just see if there's anything we can piece together to find out who did this.
Paul. Oh my God.
Karen is also getting, attacked for some reason. Karen doesn't contest Paul's accusations or bring up her suspicions in court. And so because she doesn't contest, Paul is awarded the house and custody of their 2 daughters.
Why?
And Karen Sue is forced to live in Mary's backyard in a trailer.
Oh my gosh. Without her kids?
They have a son and 2 daughters, and the son's older, and the son seems to side with Karen Sue, but he's over 18, I think. So it's very confusing why, and she has records of Paul abusing her, and he went to counseling for it, and afterwards, and he gave her a black eye, and she had a cut, and
Jesus.
she probably did cheat on him, and he probably did abuse her. Like, probably both things are true.
Yeah.
It's confusing why she wouldn't. This is happening while their divorce proceedings are going on.
Sometimes the victim mentality where you don't want to rag on your abuser.
Maybe. Yeah. So on October 24th, 1983, Paul is put on trial for the attempted murder of Mary Gillispie. Mary testifies recounting her story. The defense wants all the letters separated from this attempted murder, but the booby trap had an inscription on the inside, and it read in part, "In dedication of Mrs. Massey." And the writing matched the letters.
What?
So the judge allows 39 of the letters into evidence out of what is said to be thousands.
Okay, wait. Does Paul have a job?
Yes, he has a master's degree, and he is a quality manager at Anheuser. Is that what it's called? Anheuser-Busch?
Oh.
And then the defense really doubles down on the fact that when Paul was asked for a handwriting sample, they gave him an actual letter and said, copy this as close as you can to it, which is not the appropriate way to get a sample, because then Paul tried to actually copy it like they told him to. And so a handwriting expert got on the stand and said that it was enough of a match that they believe Paul Freshour wrote the letters. And the defense says, well, yeah, because you told him to copy it. So this is where they're trying to go with this. And even though Paul's handwriting seems to be a close match, right? They're trying to put holes in that, but there's also no physical evidence at all to link Paul to it. There's the
gun.
There's nothing from Paul on it. There's nothing on the booby trap. There's no physical evidence of anybody, not even another person. And the day that...
Do they have fingerprints by now?
Yeah, it's the 80s. Okay. The day the booby trap was found, Paul took the day off from work, which the DA jumps all over, saying that's why he took the day off from work. But Paul said he took the day off because he was having work done at the house and he needed to be there. And all of his neighbors say, yeah, he was there through the day. But I don't know that you can account for every single minute. It probably didn't take long to drive out and put it on if it was him. There's no way to, it's not a super solid alibi. We can't pinpoint exactly the time frame, but he's saying he was at home. So despite the lack of physical evidence, Paul Freshour is found guilty and he's sentenced to 7 to 25 years in the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility.
Wow.
Side note, Paul used to be, before he worked at Anheuser-Busch, he was a prison guard at this same prison. And there had been a prison riot and he was actually taken hostage by the inmates for about a day and a half. So he has to go back to this prison, which... I don't know if he's guilty or not, but that's got to be it's going to be bad news. After Paul's in prison, okay, the letters don't stop.
Oh, shit.
They are still postmarked Columbus, which is now about 2 hours away from where Paul is being detained. So how is he doing it? right? The sheriff says it's still Paul. He's sending them from prison. And the warden says, no, he is in jail.
You could check that.
He's not allowed pen or paper. Then they even isolate him. Anything going in or out is searched. And Paul even starts getting his own letters. And he's actually denied parole because the letters continue to keep happening. But here's something I find interesting. 12 of the letters that were sent during the time he was in prison have Paul's fingerprints on it.
Okay, well.
But how is he sending them? How's he doing it?
Does he have visitors?
Have you ever watched Monk?
Yeah, I love that show.
Oh, really? I didn't know, because there's an episode that made me think of this. There's an episode where somebody is also in prison or has a solid alibi, but packages are still being sent, and they find out that they're super gluing them to the top of the mailbox, and then they fall down randomly.
Oh.
And I was trying to think, like, how is he? Did he? If this is him, right?
Right, like
did
something's
he write
timed?
Did he write hundreds of letters before?
Right.
There has to be somebody helping him, though. If this is him,
There's
has to be somebody helping him. And they were saying, well, lots of people said, well, you can, guards can get stuff in and out of prison. Well, maybe, but then they have to drive 2 hours to Columbus. Is anybody really willing to do that on a regular basis? I don't know. But I mean, also, he was a former prison guard there. Does he still know people there? Does he still have friends there? I don't know.
Maybe. But something like a timed release. Like
or if somebody is trying to frame him, does somebody have papers that we know Paul has touched?
What if he's tight with a postal worker and he just gave them a ton of letters and just said, slowly feed them?
That they investigated with the USPS as well, trying to find out where these letters are coming from and who was mailing them and all that, and they couldn't find anything. So investigator Martin Yant, he starts looking into this case in the early 90s after Paul's in jail. And Martin is an investigator for cases that he believes were wrongly accused, and he has books and everything out on it. And Yant finds a witness who drove by the location of the booby trap only minutes before Mary did. And she saw a yellow El Camino and a man she didn't know outside the car. He was large, I think tall, with what she said was sandy hair. And Paul is short and has very dark hair. But Karen Sue has a new boyfriend at this time who matches that description. So Martin Yant starts going with the theory that Karen Sue is actually the letter writer and is setting Paul up.
Why would she be setting up her sister, though?
Mary's her sister-in-law.
Oh.
She's Ron's sister.
But that's her niece.
I know. Well, I mean, it's technically Paul's niece, too. I don't know. So Martin Yant doesn't believe Paul Freshour is guilty.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Then, in 1993, still going. We're in the 90s now. Unsolved Mysteries receives their own letter.
Stop.
And it says, forget Circleville, Ohio. Do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to Ohio, you else sickos will pay. The Circleville writer.
It's the sheriff the whole time. Wait, is this solved for real? I feel like 1993 was last week. So we are,
it was a minute ago.
It was 30 years ago. Holy shit.
So Paul, in 1994, Paul is actually released on parole and the letters stop. And Unsolved Mysteries decides to come to town to continue to cover this story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And someone finds them dead.
Well, according to people around town, Karen Sue is not happy that the television show is coming and that they're featuring the case. But Paul Freshour agrees to interview. He's on the episode if you watch it.
So how long was he in jail for?
About 10 years.
Oh, God. I hope he's not innocent because that's rough.
So Paul Freshour is urging, he says, I'm innocent. I didn't do it. He is urging the police to reopen the investigation, particularly around Ron Gillespie's death.
His murder.
Other people are reporting that Karen Sue is watching the filming across the street and seems to be taking note of who's coming in and out.
Do those people get letters?
Yeah, the letters really seem to stop after 1994.
What?
And Paul Freshour, he's passed on. He died at the age of 70, but he maintained that he was innocent up until the time of his death. He never said otherwise. 48 hours when they looked into this case. They brought in their own experts to kind of analyze the case in retrospect. And so they brought in a woman named Mary Ellen O'Toole, who was a former FBI profiler.
Oh.
She believes that the writer is most likely a woman, does not have very much education. And, Paul had a master's degree, but you'll see. Remember, I told you earlier that article said that people try to
They
take it
dumb it
down a
down.
notch or two from whatever is their baseline level. She also believes that the letter writer has a personality disorder. And she thinks
You
that
think?
it's possible that I know, she thinks that's the booby trap and the letters may be separate people.
Huh.
However, 48 Hours also brought in their own handwriting expert, Beverly East, and she analyzed nearly 50 letters and samples of Paul Freshour's writing that were not done, with the copy from the police station.
Mm-hmm.
And she noticed that the letter G, it does look weird. It looks like a 6. And some other quirks. She found several quirks that match Paul Freshour and these letters, and she says she is confident that Paul Freshour wrote the letters.
What the fuck?
All right, what's your question?
I really wish she had become a baker.
What?
Barbara Yeast.
Oh, East.
Oh.
So I guess she could be
maybe a compass maker.
Could you turn yourself into a GPS, please? Thanks. So you have two. They don't agree.
Oh my God.
So okay.
We
So
need
here's
a
where
third one.
Here's where we get to the question and answer period. So Martin Yant doesn't think that it's Paul Freshour. He thinks that it's Karen Sue setting up her ex-husband. Mary Ellen O'Toole doesn't. She can't. She's most on the fence about stuff. She can't say for sure, but she thinks it's a woman as well. However, Beverly East says she thinks confident it's Paul Freshour, and the podcaster of Whatever Remains said she also thinks it's Paul Freshour. So it's totally split, but just between those two. But there's so many other weird things. So here, I'm going to throw you the current theories. There's also a Reddit string that is just unbelievable. And the Reddit, detectives that get on this, I love listening to their theories. But the theories that are kind of circulating is one that it's Paul Freshour. He did everything. He did the letters. He did the booby trap, all of that. There are some people who think maybe Mary Gillispie did it and was doing it unconsciously, right? And didn't know she was doing it. And it was one of those kind of cases.
Yeah.
That seems to be the least talked about.
Okay.
There's some people that believe Paul and Martin Yant that Karen Sue is the letter writer and had Paul framed, because Karen Sue was saying that she saw letters around the house. She actually noticed letters in weird places around the house, in the envelopes, and she was being attacked. But the rumor at the time, right? Paul said my gun was stolen, and the kind of story that came out after he was in prison was that he believed that his son, his oldest son, stole the gun, and he didn't want to tell on his son, and he was willing to go to jail to protect his son, and that he stole the gun for his mother, and that then Karen Sue used her boyfriend to plan it. So that's one of the theories. The other theory is that there are multiple letter writers, that this is some sort of group that was working to explain why the letters could keep going at certain points. The other theory is that it was, in fact, David Longberry who was the first person Mary suspected. And he was accused of raping an 11-year-old in the 90s.
That. No.
And he was never found. He's a fugitive.
Hopefully he's dead in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, they believe that he's now deceased, but nobody knows for sure. Another theory is that it was possibly somebody from Gordon Massey's family, particularly his teenage son, because some of the letters, a few of them, I didn't see any of them, but some of them were signed with a W, which was the first letter of his son's name.
Okay.
There also is a theory that there is a bigger cover-up at play than anybody really gets into, and this is because this is so weird. The doctor who performed Ron's autopsy, right, who said his legal limit was 1.5 times, right? He was convicted of several crimes in 1993, including child molestation and indecent exposure, to name a few. And those articles are chilling. I won't repeat them because you're on the call, but they are gross. And call. Are we having a phone call? We are on the podcast. Also, the attorney in one of the cases also was receiving letters saying that he was having an affair with a teacher and that woman was pregnant, which turned out to be true. So there's all these theories about all the people kind of
Oh
connected with the
my
case.
God.
All these people were probably receiving their own threatening letters.
Yeah.
But how does this person know all this stuff? That's why I wondered if maybe it's somebody who works at a medical office or something in town.
Right. It's somebody like a priest, a sheriff, a doctor, a teacher, like someone who's really connected to a lot of people.
The teachers seem to really be getting the brunt of it.
Yeah.
So those are all of the kind of loose ends that people are trying to fit into the puzzle. And which brings us to, what do you think happened to Ron? Let's start there. Was it a freak accident? Was he drunk
Yeah, that's what
driving?
I want to pick that up. No, there's something weird with that. Just to run out with a gun, like freak out like that, there's something wrong.
So it makes sense to me. He was home alone with his kids. It makes sense to me. It wouldn't be weird because he ran out late at night. It wouldn't be weird if he had a couple drinks.
Yeah.
He's under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress.
Right. And his wife's out of town. He's
Yeah, he's
unwinding a
home
little
alone with the
bit.
kids. Like, they're not going anywhere. Maybe he did have a few drinks and then he got the phone call and he did take off. I
But
don't know.
you gotta be blind drunk to do something like that, I think.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Well, 1.5 times the legal limit, that's quite
I
a
don't
bit.
really know how drunk that is.
Right. I don't either. It also depends on him, right? I don't
Yeah.
know his size, or I don't know how often
Right.
he drank, right? But here's the thing I'm thinking. If you're even a little bit impaired, and maybe he shot his gun more than likely, so maybe he was being chased. Maybe he was someone trying to run off the road.
Maybe he was trying to go away from the house. Well,
Maybe
he
he
ran out of
was
the
chasing
house.
somebody, right? We don't know what happened. I don't think that Ron Gillespie was murdered intentionally. I think that there was some sort of confrontation or something that got Ron really worked up, thinking he was going to put an end to this, and
Yeah.
he happened to have an accident while it was happening. And I don't know how involved that other person was. Maybe they were fleeing, maybe they were getting away from the scene, maybe they were actively trying to run him off the road. Maybe they shot at him and he shot back. Right? I don't know. That's why the theory they bring up the doctor is that he wasn't even drinking at all and that the blood alcohol content was fabricated. That's one of the deeper conspiracy theories.
Got it.
I just don't think that
Wow.
murdering Ron was the point at any juncture. I feel like that was an accident. I think it was
Yeah.
caused by this for sure, but I don't think that was all their goal. But maybe.
No, yeah, it just seems like if they're gonna kill Mary in that weird, sneaky way, why would this happen like that?
Well, that's my next question. How did they know Mary would take the sign down?
Because it's her daughter.
But they're putting it on a random road. I mean, somebody else could have taken it down. She might have decided not to touch it.
Maybe this person's just a psycho and will just get a thrill of like the randomness from it.
She could have asked somebody else to take it down for her. It seems really not super confident that Mary's going to be the one who's going to take
Right.
it down.
That's a fair point.
I mean, she could call the police and the sheriff could have come to take it down, saying, "Come get this sign down."
Right. It could have been a teacher who would see it.
Yeah, she's on her bus route. No, I mean, it's likely. I think they could have been playing the odds, and it's likely that Mary would be the one to take it
Right.
down.
They
They'd
would
put it on
play
her
it
bus route right at
yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
But was there somebody kind of watching to make sure it was her who took it down? Or did they not care? Did they not care if,
Right.
a random person took it down?
I mean, this person is clearly disturbed.
And then my last question is, why are they so obsessed with Mary?
They had to have wronged them in some way or jealous or something.
They must be jealous. There have to be other women in town who are having affairs.
Yeah.
She cannot be the only one.
No.
Well, she even says it didn't happen till later, but she
Well,
can't
we
be the
knew
only.
Karen Sue was having an affair, maybe.
That's what Paul says. But why are they so obsessed with Mary? That makes me think it
It
has to be
has to be
somebody.
personal.
Yeah, it has to be a coworker or somebody who knows her, and that's why I think they, if Paul was also being cheated on, he's taking it out on Mary.
What if it is William? I mean,
He
the
was
son.
young, though. It just seems unlikely. Who cares that much? And his parents divorced in 1979, so it's kind of over it. Why would he keep going into the 90s? It has to be somebody who is jealous of Mary. Mary's
Yeah.
beautiful, by the way.
Hmm.
Like, really,
I
really
mean,
pretty.
the letters sounded very possessive.
Yeah, of their girls, right? My
Yes,
girls.
exactly. Did they question like bus drivers' boyfriends?
I don't know
Other ones?
how thorough the investigation was.
Oh my god, this is a really whodunit.
It really
Y'all better
is.
answer in our Instagram story. I feel like Paul at least wrote the letters because his fingerprints
Right, his fingerprints are on ones from jail.
and like all the other things that are coinciding. But wait, did Mary get letters in Florida?
No, I don't think she was even there. I think she was on her way when Ron's accident happened. I don't even think they made
Oh,
it.
okay.
Or if they did, they had just gotten there, so then she would have been right back.
Got it. God, so sad.
So sad. And think of how Mary's daughter had
I
to grow
know.
up under
I
this. This
know.
started when she was a very
That's
little.
so heavy. Always in like just looming over you.
It went on for
Sh-
years.
I hope she moved out of that town and found a new life on the coast of California.
It could be as simple as it's just all this kind of weird stuff happens in all places and we just don't know about it. And this person's exposing it. It seems like an odd amount of things to be happening. You know, the doctor had all those charges, the ex-bus
Yeah.
driver had all those charges. It's very strange.
That's why, or is it connected into the police where, because they can control a lot of this? I don't know.
Leave the sheriff alone, you El Sicko.
I know. I'm about to get some letters. Well, yeah, good luck coming after me to meet my husband. He's more ruthless than I am.
You having a social?
What'd you say?
You having an ice cream social with this person? I think almost everybody from the case is no longer, or they're
right, except for the kids.
They're much older. I'm not sure if Mary is still alive or not. I don't know about Karen Sue either, but they would be elderly women. Imagine the dread and fear Mary must have felt every single time she opened the mailbox.
Just gross. So vile.
And if she was having an affair, imagine how she must have had to deal with the guilt of that once Ron died.
Yes.
Because having an affair, it's not your best moment, but you don't know what's going on in a marriage. You don't know what's happening. And it certainly doesn't mean that she wants her husband
dead
out of the picture, right? Unless you're one of our other ladies who's got a life insurance policy, which she is not, right? So she must have had so much guilt over that. That's why it seems unlikely to me that the affair would have started after, just because of the guilt and weirdness that would have been associated with him based off everything.
Yeah, I wonder if it was really happening. And then that makes me feel like Karen Sue, because she's like, you're cheating on my brother.
Maybe. And then Karen Sue is trying to protect her brother, and then something accidentally happens.
Yeah.
Right. And she
she's really
feels
upset.
terrible. And then she starts sending letters, continuing to attack. I mean, I don't think anyone's talked about this, but is there a world in which Karen Sue and Paul were in it together?
Right. I mean, maybe not because of the messy divorce.
Well, maybe after the messy divorce, maybe that's why she didn't say anything. Maybe he had something on her. Maybe he said he was going to expose her for running Ron off the road, or maybe something happened that caused Ron's accident.
I just wish Ron had told Mary what he thought. He's like, oh, I narrowed it down.
I know, that's always weird to me. That's why I don't know if I believe it, because that is so Hollywood. Everybody always does that. I think I've solved it. I'll talk to you later. Why would you do that?
No, I'd be like, bitch, tell me right now before you
you're
hang
gonna tell me
up.
now, and then we're gonna talk about where you're going.
Yeah, like who can you imagine? I can't imagine a conversation where it's like, unless it's a rushed conversation where like Chris is like running out the door and there's a threat right there.
Or maybe the kids were in the room and he didn't want to say it, right? This isn't cell phone time.
Oh, it's Uncle Paul.
Yeah. Christmas is going to be awkward. Or maybe he wasn't sure and he didn't want to get her hopes up until he knew for sure and he was waiting for confirmation.
I mean, all marriages are different, especially back then. I'd want transparency.
Well, this is still a time too where I think stereotypes are more at play, where Ron probably very much felt like he had to be the protector.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
And take care of it and not worry his wife about it. Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on in that town. And I would say, if it were me, I would say what the other people were doing was a lot worse than what Mary was supposedly doing, right? The
Oh, yeah.
doctor.
Absolutely.
Why
Are you
don't we
kidding me?
double down on him,
Yeah,
folks?
fuck you.
Why did we gloss over that one, you know?
Did he go to jail?
I think so.
Good.
He was convicted, so I assume. He was old by the time it happened. I mean, it was found out years after it happened.
Just why? I just don't get it.
I don't know.
But I'm not in the 2 or 20%, hopefully.
That's right on that. Whew. So, okay, do you think the letter writer was
Paul.
no, Paul? You think that's who it was?
I mean, the fingerprints on that, like, come on now. And, like, other
No.
things pointing to it. Like, him being in the know really clued that. But I feel like Karen must be kind of involved because of being protective of her brother or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't decide. I mean, what if it's just somebody we're not even considering?
Right. What if it is that David guy?
Yeah, another bus driver. Because yeah, he was accused in the 90s and the letter stopped after that once he went on the run.
That feels like a big one to consider.
I know. I wish I could have a printout of when people passed away to see how it correlates with when the letters stopped. I wouldn't discount the theory that there's more than one person because somebody needs to help mail those going in, or it would be somebody who went to Columbus regularly and didn't raise any eyebrows. You have the whole day off if you're a bus driver.
Right,
you work
in the morning and
the middle.
afternoon.
Yeah, you have the middle of the day off.
So you could totally drive up to Columbus. I feel like that is a thread that wasn't pulled on hard enough.
We obviously don't have all the pieces.
Yeah. Wow.
There's definitely somebody in this who is completely innocent and being accused, right? I don't know who that is, but there's definitely something.
It's not Paul.
Somebody who's innocent, and yeah, either it's Paul and you went to jail for a decade for something he didn't commit.
A long time. You just hope you'd read a lot of books or something.
Yeah, I guess you're reading this. All right, well, what are your last words?
I don't even know. My head is jumbled.
I told you this one was going to be weird.
I guess one thing that stood out to me is like, I know this is going to sound weird, but don't miss the opportunity for kindness when you can. Like, I know this is a very easy kindness to do, but like the boss taking down the signs of their worker.
Yeah.
That just goes such a long way. And there's so many ways to be kind, and we could all do a little bit more of that.
Don't write these letters. And
also, if you're feeling these urges, put yourself in a program.
Yeah, talk to somebody.
Or tell somebody.
Well, if you want, there's so many podcasts that cover it. So if you want to listen to Whatever Remains, that one goes pretty in depth. I also listen to it on one of my favorite true crime podcasts, which is Morbid. I know Alana will never listen to them, but I just love hanging with them because they're from New England.
One of them has my name.
Almost.
I own it.
Oh, it's Elena.
Oh, right.
It's a little different. And
some people mispronounce that, so.
That's true. She probably has been called your name a bunch of the time, I'm sure. And they say room like I do, so I always room. In the room. Which I didn't know I said weird until a couple years ago. But I just love listening to them. So they have a great episode on it. Check them out if you want to learn more. And
too scary.
Yeah. Well, you could listen to that episode. You could hang. All right. Well, you can find us on all the platforms at
Tea Time Crimes.
That was terrifying. You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com.
Please rate, review, subscribe, send us suggestions for tea or crimes. Ooh. And thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, wait, who should listen?
Oh, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, sheriffs, doctors, bakers, compass
Candlestick
makers.
What'd you say?
Compass makers, like Barbara East.
Beverly.
And people who like to write letters.
Please keep it PG in your letter writing. Let's stay away from threats.
Yeah, no threats.
Let's just send love in those letters.
No threats, just pets. Oh no, only consensual pets. No, just for dogs. I don't know. Cut it, exit.
Thank you for listening. Maybe we'll be back next week. Who knows? Bye.
Bye.